Of the many reasons that last year's Sixers team failed, the one that stands out above all is their failure to reach their potential on defense. Coming into that season, many had expected them to be historically great on that side of the floor, and they never came remotely close to that level. According to NBA.com, the Sixers finished 8th in the league in defensive rating last year, just half a point per 100 possessions better than the Chicago Bulls. And what's more confounding about their lack of success last season is that despite making roster moves that would have led you to believe that they'd take a step back defensively, namely swapping Josh Richardson for Seth Curry, the Sixers have been much better defensively this year than they were last year. At the time of this publishing, the Sixers ranked 2nd in the league in defensive rating behind only the Lakers. While the offense has also improved since last year, it's the defense that has made the Sixers one of the league's best teams this year, and it's only gotten better as the season has gone on. Since the All-Star break, the Sixers have the best defensive rating in the league by a wide margin, which is a big reason they've been able to go 11-4 in that stretch. Here in this video, I'll be breaking down the things that have allowed the Sixers to take such a step forward on the defensive end, despite arguably having worse personnel this year than they did last year. For the rights to Ricky Sanchez, this is Mike O'Connor, and this video is sponsored by BodyBio. In order to look at what's different, one of the best places to start is with the Sixers' defensive shot location data. Last season, the Sixers allowed an average number of shots around the rim, among the fewest three-point attempts, and among the most mid-range attempts. This distribution is a symptom of a few things, but mainly their pick-and-roll scheme. Take a look at their alignment and you'll quickly see how we get to these numbers. The first thing you should notice is that Joel Embiid is stationed way far back in the lane, hoping to incentivize pull-up jumpers. This leads to the Sixers giving up a ton of mid-range looks. But also, just as importantly, the Sixers' wings stay completely glued to their men to help prevent three-point attempts, which again leads to more mid-range pull-ups. This was all by design, and as you can see, the plan more or less panned out in their shot distribution numbers. They prevented teams from taking threes, they forced a ton of mid-range looks, and they didn't get killed around the rim. Sounds great, right? Problem is, that shot distribution just isn't maximizing a team with great personnel. You'll hardly force any turnovers, you'll allow a ton of stars to get hot from mid-range, and because there's no help coming from the wing to deter these drives, you'll only be pretty good at defending the rim as opposed to great. Funneling teams into mid-range attempts sounds nice on paper, but past a certain point, it comes at the expense of other more important things. Ultimately, Brett Brown's somewhat radical attempt at forcing mid-range shots at any cost worked against him. Before we get to what's different this year, here's a quick word from our sponsor, BodyBio.
For any athlete, BodyBio Elite will improve your performance by preventing cramping and fatigue. Water alone doesn't replenish what your body needs, and most sports drinks contain unnecessary amounts of sugar and artificial flavors. BodyBio Elite has 3 all-natural ingredients: sodium, potassium, and magnesium, the electrolytes your body needs. Whether you're a runner, doing mixed martial arts, or just lifting in the gym, a splash of Elite in your water throughout the day will ensure that you deliver your peak performance. BodyBio Elite, no-nonsense electrolytes.
The contrast to this year's shot distribution is pretty significant. The Sixers are allowing far more three-point attempts, which comes at the expense of fewer mid-range attempts, but helps to lead to a lower percentage of at-rim attempts. In other words, in spite of allowing more threes and fewer mid-range attempts, the Sixers' defense is much better than it was last year. As to how they did it, you could probably guess. First off, Embiid is way higher up on screens, which helps lower the number of mid-range pull-ups, and perhaps just as importantly, the Sixers are having their wings offer far more help to prevent drives. Take a look on this play at how aggressive Ben Simmons is to stop Jaylen Brown. With this play alone, you can see the reason that these aggressive coverages have been beneficial for the Sixers. You allow your defensive playmakers to make an impact. Simmons swiping down on Brown there means the play ended up in a turnover, and on this play, Joel Embiid being higher up on the screen prevents Walker from taking the type of pull-ups that he took last year. Walker has to reset, the Sixers go into scramble mode, and because they have great defensive personnel, they're able to eventually force a turnover. That's what these aggressive coverages do. The Sixers have so many players on this roster with excellent range and reaction time that you'd be foolish not to unleash them. Players like Danny Green, for example, have such a knack for digging down on the ball and generating turnovers that you're better off giving them the opportunity to do so as opposed to making them stay glued to shooters to prevent threes. Even outside of pick and roll settings, the Sixers are able to demonstrate incredible levels of cohesiveness and communication. Here on this play, Simmons gets beat by Tatum, but Dwight Howard has incredible reaction time and meets Tatum at the rim, and the Sixers go into scramble mode once again. Watch how Simmons closes out to Smart before the ball is even there, and you get another difficult shot attempt. With a team that can cover ground like that, you're much better off running aggressive schemes that they're running under Doc Rivers than the ones they ran under Brett Brown. Thanks to these adjustments, the Sixers are much better at forcing turnovers than they were last season. They're 7th this year compared to 22nd in the league last year. These adjustments aren't anything overly drastic or innovative, but they were exactly the right schemes to put in place, and Rivers and his staff deserve a lot of credit for it. The Sixers went from a massively disappointing defensive team to one that is perhaps overachieving in a matter of one season. That they've made such an improvement with mostly the same personnel is an incredible feat of coaching. For the rights to Ricky Sanchez, this is Mike O'Connor, and this video was sponsored by BodyBio.